Of course, I'm going to start this off wrong. What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Pay-Per-Viewpoint post show immediately following the WWE Saturday Night's main event 41 show. Not immediately going straight into the outro. I clicked on the wrong thing. So it'd be amazing. It'll be the fastest episode of the podcast it's ever been. It immediately starts, immediately ends. I'm your host, as always, Tony Mango, and of course, I'm going to be running down everything that just happened on this show. I invite everybody to join in on the discussion. Leave a comment below, whether you're listening to this after the fact, or if you are live in the chat that's going on right now. I see that Peter is in the chat right now, saying, damn, the show's already over, yeah. So what's going on, Peter? And some other people funneling in, it seems. So, you know, speak up. Let me know what you think about all this stuff. Offset my opinions, whatever it might be. But let's get into the Saturday night's main event stuff. Of course, keep in mind, too, if you are listening to this and on YouTube and, you know, you're after the fact or whatever, or even if you are live on that, make sure you hit the like button. That helps us out quite a bit. If you want to pass this around, share the video on whatever platforms it is that you want to share on there. You got the subscribe button. Double check that you are subscribed on that. Also, the thanks button. Make sure you hit that if you want to toss a little spare change our way. Another great way to do that is the join button, the channel membership on YouTube or Patreon. All that stuff is greatly, greatly, greatly appreciated, as is Peter's message about happy anniversary from yesterday. Thank you for that, Peter. Keep in mind as well, we have Redbubble and TeePublic for merchandise options, and we also have our Discord server if you want to just chat it up throughout the week at any point in time, share some memes, have some laughs, watch some shows with people, whatever it might be. It's a safe space for everybody to just chill out and have some fun. So let's see, we got Totoro in the chat. Did Punk win? I will let you know later. It's gonna be a hook for this whole thing. Hook didn't win. 4 matches on this show, and I gotta confess, I have a little hiccup that happened during this. I completely didn't pay attention to the idea that this was starting at 7 o'clock. And I'm not the only one. I see that plenty other people have been like, well, I didn't expect that this was happening and, you know, whatever. I assumed that this was 8 to 10, the way that every single else one has been. You know, they've done so many of these at this point, and I should have paid more attention. I should have, you know, actually bothered to double check what they were saying and whatever. But, you know, you tune this stuff out after a while, and I just, you know, what's the likelihood that's going to be another time? So I missed the entire first match. When I clicked onto this and I finally had everything set up, they were transitioning into Jade Cargill coming out. So I have nothing that I can say about the Cody Rhodes versus Drew McIntyre match for the Undisputed Championship. The title did not change hands, and I did go back while Jade was coming out and doing her entrance and everything, because I don't need to watch an entrance. And I did see the end of the McIntyre and Rhodes match, which, if you didn't know from Friday Night SmackDown, they had a little bit of a tweak to this. It was now going to be not a no DQ and no count out match, but a match where essentially Drew McIntyre was saying it's lopsided with the matches because of the championship's advantage, the champion's advantage, where the championship doesn't change hands if the champion is counted out or disqualified. So Cody said, okay, well then I am fine with just foregoing that. And it was essentially, you know, if Drew wins by any means, he wins the title. If Cody wins by any means, then, you know, Cody retains. And I don't know what they did during the match to set that up. I'm kind of assuming that what they did was that they had several moments where they teased that Cody was interested in, you know, hitting him with the belt or whatever they did. You know, maybe there's a chair involved or something. I don't know. I didn't see it, like I said. I'm assuming that that's the case. And typically when they do that in matches, the best outcome, I mean, you don't have to do the same outcome every single time, but my favorite outcome for that type of a match is if it's a heel, where a heel is, you know, constantly getting themselves disqualified and counted out, and then it's like, you know, you'll lose the title if you are counted out or disqualified again. I typically like the scenario to be that the heel finds another way to cheat. And you go into this assuming, okay, well, the title's going to change hands because they can't get the job done without cheating. and then they do something else. Maybe it's like, grabbing the tights where the referee wasn't noticing or something. My second favorite outcome for that, and this is for when it's baby faces, is actually something that's essentially what they talked about on Friday, which Cody had a great line. I wrote it down in my notes for the end of the year of, nice guys used to finish last and then I showed up. And I thought that was a really good way of doing that, which is just like, yeah, he is the baby face and all that. And it might be a little hokey and a little outdated, but sometimes doing the old school thing is still the right way to go. So to see how this match ended, where Cody won because he did a crossroads onto the championship title belt, which is an illegal move to do because that is a foreign object. And, there are rules around, if you're in a tag team match and you have 5 seconds and to get back out, or they play around with those things. But if, quote unquote, the referee would have seen that, it would have been a disqualification. So that tells me that no matter what happened in this match, it's not the end of this feud anyway. And it was just to set up the idea that Drew is going to be mad that Cody technically shouldn't have won this match. And then I was DDT on the belt. I thought it was Crossroads. DDT on the belt followed by Crossroads. Yeah, you're right about that. I'm just merging them together in my brain. So this tells me, like I said, like they're going to do another match here. And I am assuming that that's going to happen sometime in like Saturday night's main event in December, or that it might be pushed all the way to the Royal Rumble, but it could just happen as quickly as Survivor Series. I think that Drew is going to be on the heel team for Survivor Series, and I assume that Cody's going to be in the babyface team. But if John Cena's not involved, and I had thought about that before. I thought that Cena would be a part of the War Games match. I should have thought differently about that, because why would he, potentially risk the last match by doing something like that? But he never was in War Games before, so I thought maybe he would want to. There are enough people there at this point that if they want to do CM Punk, Cody Rhodes, LA Knight, the Usos, and Roman Reigns, you already have 6 people, so you wouldn't need Cena anyway. And whoever they decide to merge, or I just read the message popped on my screen, urge to merge from Guest 5, whoever they decide to throw out of the match, and it doesn't have 6-on-6. They could do 6-on-6, but they're not going to. If it's Cody who is not in the match and it ends up being CM Punk and everybody, which would kind of make more sense. Punk, LA Knight, the Usos, and Roman are the 5 people that have been the most involved in all that. Cody has this whole separate thing going on with Drew McIntyre, and maybe they just do that match or something. Maybe it's... See, that's the thing, though. I don't know who they end up putting in the heel team, too. It's... Obviously, it's going to be Braun Breaker and it's going to be Bronson Reed. You have those 2. I would assume Brock Lesnar is one of the other ones. And then the other people, I don't know. If they do 4-on-4, if they do 5-on-5, which ones are we going to get? Are we going to get Drew McIntyre and then blank added? Is it just Drew McIntyre and that keeps it simple with the 4? I don't know who else would make any sense, because the MFTs are too many people. And if they just throw Solo in there, then it's going to seem kind of strange. And then, who else is there on Monday Night Raw for it to be a thing? Maybe somebody returns. Maybe that's Gunther returning and he joins the mix on that. I don't know. I just don't see the point in why he would be. But we did get a thing today where they said that there will be a 16-man tournament starting on Monday Night Raw, and the winner of that will go on to face John Cena for his last match on Saturday night's main event on December 13th. So they didn't announce who those 16 people are, but they said it's going to be from Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and then who knows who else, kind of a thing. So is that, an indicator of somebody returning, like a legend who's coming back to do a match and then lose to, a Gunther or somebody? Is that somebody like a Chris Jericho for all we know? Or is that somebody who is like, we called upon so-and-so to come and do a guest match and they are like quote unquote retired, but whatever, like a, I don't know. Like, I don't even know who would be in Cena's radar to like want to do, because it would probably just lose, the first match or something, unless it's somebody like, maybe it is somebody super important like Chris Jericho. But it starts next week. I thought it was on this Monday Night Raw. Yeah, like Matt Cardona, Joe Hendry, those are two options. And like maybe they technically couldn't say, okay, well, it's from Raw and from SmackDown and from NXT and from TNA or something like that. So it's just like, you never know who else. Or maybe they are calling somebody in from another company and they're just kind of like giving them a one shot. I don't know. Maybe JBL comes back for all we fucking know. Let me double check a couple things else in this chat that I've been not as much paying attention to. Cody versus Drew felt very awkward and weird, says Josh. What was awkward and weird about it? Was it like their dynamic? Like they didn't quite know how to do the heel thing? Or I'm curious. So Cody will wrestle again with a stipulation added. Yeah, it's probably no DQ or something. There's the merge thing that threw me off. I really wish they'd switch up Survivor Series. War Games one year, Chamber another, something else the year after that. Yeah, I still just kind of wish that they would just do Survivor Series the way that they used to and do like the gimmicky names and, the foreign fanatics versus the All-Americans and the, not necessarily that story, but like, the Warriors and it's Ultimate Warrior and Road Warriors and so forth. That's why I like doing the Time Machine Dream Team, because I find it kind of fun to be like, all right, well, DIY gets paired with who and it's like who could be on the opposite team of the Wyatt Six or something like that. It was just Drew trying to get Cody disqualified the entire match felt very brilliant to me. Yeah, I never really was the biggest fan of these types of stipulations. I think it's better when the heel is the defending champion and they're the one that can lose the title and all. I think when it's the baby face, the dynamic's just kind of weird. I agree with Peter. Would love to see Obafemi brought into the mix like that. So maybe it's Obafemi who gets on this train and gets, halfway through the tournament or something like that. I don't know. So the whole Cody Rhodes retaining thing, it's obviously Drew McIntyre is getting another title shot. It's just when and how, and they're going to lead into that in some fashion. So I didn't miss that whole entire thing. I start tuning in during Jade Cargill's entrance, which means that I also missed this thing about Nick Aldis reiterating that she's like injured and whatever. So going into this with an injury, a fake injury, but an injury storyline, all the more reason why Jade was going to win. And, I pre-wrote up that Jade won just in case to make it a little bit easier for myself for my news report. And it was like, okay, well, she basically just squashed her and did what she needed to do, did a bunch of power bombs and hit Jaded, which I hate being like, oh, hit her with Jaded. Like, I don't like how that, it doesn't feel right. Then again, like we've got the Oscar lock and all that stuff. So that's really stupid. The whole like Jade winning the title and Tiffany Stratton dropping it, whatever. I already talked about this on the prediction side of things. I think that Stratton was really underperforming this year as far as like not her performance, but like the title reign was just like creatively bankrupt. And it's not her fault at all. So that's a shame. But that makes me just want them to do something different anyway. So I think she gets robbed out of a good title reign because she has been getting better in a lot of different ways. And, she should have had a long reign, a good reign for being as long as it was. It was 11 months long. And, when you get into the minutia of that kind of thing and you start saying like, okay, well, like what did she do over her title reign? It doesn't sound like it's a 10 plus month title reign, an entire year almost of her champion. And what do we have to show for it? So that sucks for her. But, Jade, I feel like is going to have her own hurdles, and I don't want to see this feud continue, but it's going to continue, I'm sure. And then she'll probably fight Nia Jax again. They got to do the whole thing all over again. So I guess we're going to have to see. I'm not opposed to the title change, but I'm opposed to everything that led up to the title change. Let's put it that way. Third match of the night out of the 4 matches was the triple threat match for the men's Intercontinental Championship, and Dominik Mysterio retains over Rusev and Penta in a way that I thought was pretty fun. Dom has been using the Timekeeper's Bell as a weapon, and when Rusev had Penta in the Accolade, Dom was ringing the timer bell, and that made Rusev give it up because he thought that he won. The referee was confused and everything, and then that led to eventually when Dominik Mysterio was able to capitalize on stuff and pin Penta. I think that I don't really love the Rusev Penta Dom triangle that's going on, but this needed to end with Dom still being the smarter one of the two, I think. Because if one of them would have won, it would have seemed really strange. Like, why not just give the belt to Penta already? And then it could have been Penta versus Rusev. Why do Rusev and Dom? Or, why transition from Dom to Rusev or anything? So I'm totally down for this being the result. I think that it was a fun enough ending to it. So thumbs up on that front. I like it. And maybe this is more of the whole John Cena's going to win the Intercontinental title and drop it to Gunther thing. I'm assuming Gunther is in the tournament. I'm assuming that John Cena ends up losing to Gunther. And then that, of course, informs WrestleMania. And if Gunther is the Intercontinental champion heading into WrestleMania, he's not winning the Royal Rumble, which also means that my Gunther versus Cody thing is pretty much out the window. Unless it ends up being the setup of he's going to have the Intercontinental title for a month and he's going to lose it and then he's going to win the Elimination Chamber. I don't know though. I think at this point it's probably better to just assume that Gunther's not fighting Cody, and then that's even more confusing when it comes to the last match, which CM Punk defeated Jey Uso to win the vacated World Heavyweight Championship, because I keep thinking that if it's not going to be Cody Rhodes versus Gunther, well, then it's going to be Cody Rhodes versus CM Punk. And if Punk is the champion, then it can't be that, because they're not going to do the, title for title thing and carry that over into WrestleMania again for a 2-night WrestleMania. They're not doing it. Especially if it's not, versus Roman versus whatever. They weren't going to do Cody versus Seth. I highly doubt that was the plan. The setup of what they are planning to do with Punk, I don't know. I'm assuming he just drops the belt to Braun Breaker by Royal Rumble or so. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's at the December show too or something. But I'm not super thrilled about the idea of Braun needs to beat somebody in a singles thing where it's not a vacated title, or that they think that that's really going to be, even better than the long run for Braun. I don't subscribe to that at all. I think that it's going to be an unnecessary waiting period. And then when it comes to if he is champion at Royal Rumble, he's going to have had no time to build himself up as a champion. And it'll just be, oh, so wait, so that guy's champion right now? Who the fuck's that guy? For a lot of people that are the casuals. And we'll get into that when we get into it, but I'm more into the idea that CM Punk is champion than Jey Uso, so I'll give them that. That's at least a better outcome on that front. And the match itself was fine. It had a little bit of the botchy moments here and there. I CM Punk now is guilty of doing the worst spear that I think I've ever seen, and Jay doing the GTS and his usual shtick and whatever like that. I didn't love it, obviously, but Punk being champion, interesting enough. Let's see where they go, and then I'll care more when they prove that they've got a plan. Not having a lot of faith in that, let's be honest. So that is it. I just want to double check the chat here. I think Oba wins the whole thing and Cena will literally fall from grace. Could be. It's got to be Braun Breaker for Cena's last match. See, that's the thing too. I would think you would want to check off Dom and Breaker and Gunther, and they just decided that they didn't want to do all three of those, I guess. So somebody is losing that and not having a match with John Cena. You would think that Breaker would have, I don't know. This set up War Games with Jade, Nia, Julia, and Kiana being on the heel side. I haven't even thought about the women's War Games thing. Kabuki Warriors are just 2. So, Kabuki Warriors, if they're involved, it would have to be them and I don't know, it's probably them and Judgment Day, and then a couple other people, you know, Ripley, Stephanie Vaquer, probably Nikki Bella, and then somebody else. I don't know. Probably another thing for more games matches this year could be like a men's Raw and SmackDown, the women's Raw and SmackDown. I don't know. No good option for the World Heavyweight Championship winner. Yeah, that's kind of how I thought. Like, I would have preferred them to just give it to Braun Breaker, but I also kind of see why they might be like, oh, that's not going to mean as much. It doesn't register to me like that. I think it would have been the better call to just put it on Braun Breaker and then have him spend these next couple of months being like, you know, okay, well, I won the title because I beat the guy up and made him vacate the title, kind of a thing. I would have been more interested if it was somebody completely random, like, you know, like an Obafemi, like if they would have just crowned him, and then it would have been like, oh shit, what are they gonna do for WrestleMania? Like, you know, but it's the Braun Breaker story, and for some reason, Punk just needs to be a stopgap. So I think that they're probably going to have that title change hands somewhere around Royal Rumble. I don't think that that's going to happen at Survivor Series. That's a little too quick. And I don't think it's going to happen at, you know, a Monday Night Raw episode or, you know, Saturday Night's main event on the same thing as John Cena's retirement. I don't think anything's going to happen on that show. Like, it's Cena's retirement and that's it, really. And, you know, then there's like Deadline from NXT, so it wouldn't happen there. Royal Rumble's probably when they're going to have the title change. And, you know, for those extra 2 months, I would have just given it to Braun Breaker, you know. I hear the sirens in your background, and I looked out my window. Yeah, sorry about that. I can't do anything. I've got as much as I possibly can get on this thing, having filters and, you know, whatever. But yeah, I mean, that's the long and short of WWE Saturday Night's main event. Of course, keep in mind that if we want to check out what's happening next on the podcast, then we'll probably be back on like Tuesday, Wednesday or something with, you know, the next main event. We got the next round of the hot tags too. So everything that happens from Raw after this spills out forward. We'll give you more news updates there. Same with EWN. But if you want to check out all the stuff that's on a Mango Tree and, you know, the whole setup of the Smark Out Moment and Fanboys Anonymous and all, then go to amangotree.com, anthonymango.com, same exact thing. That's all the links to my kind of stuff, which is reminding me as well that I need to add 2 movies to my Letterboxd, because I had seen Frankenstein today, and I need to go back and also add Volcano that I watched recently, the old school Volcano one, part of my marathon of watching kind of bad movies. But Frankenstein, good. I recommend it for anybody that's curious. And, you know, any kind of Fanboys Anonymous related stuff like that, of course, the more support that you show for Fanboys Anonymous, the more that I'll do. So if you like me geeking out over movies, then subscribe to that channel, toss a subscription or something, you know, leave comments below, whatever it might be. But keep that in mind for the DC thing as well. I want to do something AEW and DC related when it comes to the whole Full Gear thing. So we got Survivor Series coming around the corner. We could do fun stuff with that too. So, you know, I mean, do with it as you may. And of course, subscribe and just keep hanging around here. And I will see you next time. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for your support. Thank you for listening. Thank you for all that good stuff. But I'm going to see you next time. This has been another Smark Out Moment, and I'm being counted out.